Councillor Youssef. Councillor Youssef. Thank you. We're going to start now. In the House of Commons, they called it herding cats. I think that applies everywhere, though. We're good to go. I got the thumbs up. Got the thumbs up. Excellent. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the council meeting for October 24th, 2023. As we have quorum, I'll call the meeting to order. The time is 7:01. I always like to start the meeting off in a good way by acknowledging that the city of Maple Ridge carries out its business on the traditional and unceded territory of the Katzie First Nation and the Kwantlen First Nation. Madam Clerk, can you walk us through the procedures?
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening. This meeting is being live streamed and recorded and will be available to the public for playback on our website in accordance with Council Policy 3.12. The purpose of a council meeting is to enact powers given to council using bylaws or resolutions and is the venue for debate of issues before voting on a bylaw or resolution. This meeting is being conducted through the city's One Meeting platform. For voting purposes, council has been provided with voting cards, green for in favor, red for opposed, and yellow for point of order. For members of the public who would like to speak during public question period, if you are participating electronically, please register as a speaker by clicking on the raise hand icon and turning your mic and camera on. When you're called on, please clearly state your name and city of residence. If you're attending the meeting in person, please come forward to the podium when the mayor invites speakers and clearly state your name and city of residence before beginning your comments. Participants are reminded that there should be no discussion of public hearing bylaws which have not yet reached conclusion. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak to council. A second opportunity may be provided once all speakers in the queue have had an opportunity to speak. The total time allotted for the public question period is 15 minutes. That concludes the opening statement.
Thank you very much. And that takes us to next item, which is
approval of the agenda.
Approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Duick. That was up there, right? Any comments or questions on the agenda? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Motion has been carried, which brings us to the next item.
That's the adoption of the minutes, and there are 4 sets for council consideration.
So we have council to close from September 25th, council to close from October 3rd, council to close from October 10th, and regular council meeting of October 10th of 2023. Can I get a motion to move these items, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Tan. Any comments or questions on the minutes? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, and takes us to the next item. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next is the presentation at request of council from the Ridge Meadows Recycling Society. In attendance is Leanne Cohn for community engagement with Ridge Meadows Recycling Society, and they are here to present.
Hi.
Always a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
You have 10 minutes.
Thank you. I'll speak fast. So good evening. My name is Leanne Cohen. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for Ridge Meadows Recycling Society. And thank you for adding us to your busy agenda to talk about Waste Reduction Week, Circular Economy Month, and the future of recycling. Click. Click. This is supposed to be very easy. There we are. So many of you are familiar with our organization and our work, and we greatly appreciate your support. Our organization was started in 1972 by dedicated volunteers and has grown a lot since then. As you know, Ridge Meadows Recycling is a nonprofit, community-based organization that provides environmental services and education. We are happy to work with the City of Maple Ridge on programs that promote wildlife, energy, and water conservation. Thank you. Ridge Meadows Recycling has charitable status, and we are a nonprofit organization. Our society is governed by a volunteer board of directors who care deeply about the environment and social issues. The society has worked in partnership with the City of Maple Ridge since 1990, supporting council's strategic goals. We have 123 voting members in the society currently and direct email contact with over 11,500 residents. Our unique working partnership with the City of Maple Ridge benefits both the local environment and Maple Ridge residents. We participate in the city's annual business planning and work with them to provide recycling services, thank you very much, environmental programs, and community education. Maple Ridge has been a leader in the recycling industry for over 50 years. As the industry has evolved, so have we. In 1990, the current Maple Ridge Recycling Depot was custom built with the one-stop concept for all recyclable commodities. And now it is a central concept Metro Vancouver is working to establish throughout the region. We have always accepted any commodity that we could find a market for. And as the BC Ministry of the Environment expanded the recycling regulations, we always took part in as many provincial EPR programs as possible. So EPR stands for Extended Producer Responsibility. And these programs place the financial responsibility for the end of life of a product collection and disposal on the producers and manufacturers of that product. Before EPR programs were established, the ups and downs of the market had an impact on operations and funding, and now there is much more program stability. This industry has evolved substantially since 1972, and we continue to embrace and respond to ongoing developments to ensure Maple Ridge residents have access to the most comprehensive recycling services. And most residents know us from our big recycling trucks in their neighborhood every week. And we also see over 3,500 residents weekly at the Maple Ridge Recycling Depot. A lot of our education involves what items can be recycled and keeping our recycling contamination levels low. We also run a variety of environmental programs with the City of Maple Ridge, including Wild Safe BC, the brush chipping program, which is on now, the low flow toilet tax credit program, and the annual sale of composters, solar cone food digesters, and rain barrels. Another of our passions is community inclusion, and we have a supported work program funded by Community Living BC. This group does work both at the Maple Ridge Recycling Depot and out in the community. Many of our activities directly connect us to residents. We do environmental education for schools and community groups. We lead a team to deliver the annual Earth Day Festival, and we hold monthly repair cafes that keep items in use and out of the landfill and inspire other municipalities to start these in their own communities. We also work with other service providers to provide local resources for people with diverse abilities and advocate for community inclusion. Hopefully, we will see you this Thursday at the Community Inclusion Barbecue and Party at the Graigmore Youth Centre for lunch. Everyone is welcome. So this month has been designated Circular Economy Month, which evolved from the nationwide Waste Reduction Week, first recognized in 2001. In addition to Waste Reduction Week, the campaign now focuses on circular economy and its environmental, social, and economic benefits. In this day and age, it is no longer enough to look at merely profit as a bottom line, but we must incorporate a triple bottom line that takes into account the full life cycle of a product and its social and environmental impacts. So what is a circular economy? It is a transition from the traditional take, make, waste linear flow of resources and products to a circular one where the products are designed to be repaired, reused, or recycled and creates a more sustainable cycle with less waste. This is a goal we are working towards, and recycling and EPR programs are a first step in this, making producers responsible for the entire life cycle of their products, not just from cradle to grave, but cradle to cradle. For example, computers and appliances. There is a recycling program for all electronics, but the design of most products on the market does not embrace a circular economy concept. The electronic parts at the end of life are broken down into different materials for recycling into new products, but the computer or appliance itself is not designed to have its life extended as long as possible. There are no spare parts available to consumers to replace ones that break, and there are no repair instructions online that would enable anyone to do the repair. These items are designed to be broken down for parts at the end of their life, and only the valuable ones at that. So that is the concept of a circular economy, better design for ease of repair, reuse, and recyclability, so no parts are wasted. Recycling was the first target, and now our target is working with industry towards a circular economy. And BC just happens to be a leader in establishing a successful way to introduce and implement industry programs for a variety of products. Consumers pay an eco fee when they purchase a product such as paint. This eco fee pays for a program that enables consumers to return the item or unused portions for free drop-off and safe disposal or recycling at the end of a product's life. Almost all the items we accept at the Maple Ridge Recycling Depot are part of provincial EPR programs, including Recycle BC's program for printed paper and packaging. So in 2014, under provincial recycling regulations, Recycle BC assumed responsibility for 100% of the funding for picking up and recycling all printed paper and packaging in BC. Maple Ridge has contracts with Recycle BC to provide curbside pickup services and depot drop-off services in the city. Over the last 10 years, as the program stabilized, many other municipalities transitioned curbside recycling pickup services directly to Recycle BC. And in 2025, Maple Ridge will be transitioning our recycling pickup services to Recycle BC, embracing the concept of EPR and ensuring industry is being responsible for and paying for the full life cycle of their products. Depot services and our supported work program will remain unaffected. So the future of recycling is everything covered by an EPR program, so nothing is considered waste. Can you imagine? Every item you come in contact with during the course of your day has an end-of-life plan created and funded by the companies that produce it. Items are designed for repair and their non-usable components are recycled into other recyclable items, creating a continual and sustainable closed-loop system for all our resources. This is my version of heaven, achieving zero waste. As new EPR programs start up and our focus shifts away from curbside recycling services, we are starting to think about ways to expand our 30-year-old facility to accommodate more items and a growing population. Currently, we accept over 200 different items at the Maple Ridge Recycling Depot. If you haven't been on a tour of the depot yet, please let us know. We run public depot tours in the summer and community and school tours throughout the year. There are many stewardship organizations we work with to accept, consolidate, and ship items such as used oil and antifreeze, small and large appliances, electronics and accessories, batteries, light bulbs, and so much more. The Ministry of Environment is constantly adding new products to the recycling regulations. This year, Recycle BC's program expanded to include plastic cutlery, hard plastic food storage containers, and more. New programs, which have been announced and will be rolled out in 2025, are seen here on the slide. I'm most excited about the moderately hazardous household waste program, as household amounts of these items, like pool cleaners, are incredibly difficult to dispose of safely. We appreciate the City of Maple Ridge stepping up in previous years to fund our household hazardous waste drop-off events to assist residents in safely disposing of these items. The current depot has served the community well for over 30 years, but it is showing its limitations. Daily, our employees, contractors, and residents navigate congested spaces. And with the anticipation of new programs, coupled with changes to the curbside recycling services, we have an exciting opportunity to build our dream depot for Maple Ridge. We look forward to working with the City of Maple Ridge to design the future of recycling and a growing circular economy. Thank you.
Excellent. And you had 30 seconds to spare. Great job. Listen, thank you very much for not only the presentation, but for all the work that the Recycling Society has done over the years. It's really set the trend for recycling and getting community involved. And I think that's the most important part there, is you're not operating in a vacuum. You're reaching out to citizens, you're reaching out and trying to educate. All those things play a part if we're going to solve climate issues that we're all struggling with. So again, thank you very much for that presentation. I will open it up for questions from council. No questions? That's because you've educated us all. I am especially amazed at the second slide, where you had pictures of all the councillors and myself that were here today, but not the other two. Did you do that on purpose?
Oh, Sunny was in the opening of the repair cafes.
Yeah. There you go. I missed that one.
I searched for one for Corleen and I couldn't find it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the update, and looking forward to what the future may hold and how we can all achieve better goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, what's next on the agenda?
Thank you, Your Worship. The next item are the items listed on the consent agenda to be considered for approval in one motion unless a member of council wishes to discuss an item and requests that it be excluded. Each item removed from the consent agenda will be debated and voted on separately by council.
Thank you very much. So we have a consent agenda with 4 items on there. Can I get a motion to move the consent agenda moved by Councillor Duick, seconded by Councillor Doze? Any comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And we're going to move on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. We now move into the bylaw section of the agenda. The first bylaw is item number 2023-281-RZ to allow larger detached garden suites on residential lots. And that is in front of council for third reading and adoption if desired.
So is this one motion or 2?
If anybody thinks that they won't give adoption, then it should be split into 2, but
Okay, so we're going to move it as one. Okay. So can I get a motion to move the item moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Duick? Comments, questions on this item? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, please.
thank you. The next item is 2022-034-RZ for 11926, 11936, 11946, and 11956, 236th Street and 23638 Dudney Trunk Road to rezone from RS3 to RM1 and RM2 to allow for a future subdivision into 1 RM1 lot and 3 R2 lots for construction of townhouse development with 52 market strata dwelling units for consideration of third reading.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to move this item? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Duick. Comments, questions on this item, please? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, please. Madam Clerk.
Thank you. The next item is 2022-293-RZ at 21511 and 21521 Exeter Avenue to rezone from RS1A to R4 to allow for future subdivision of 3 lots. And this bylaw is in front of council for consideration of third reading.
Okay. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Councillor Doze, seconded by Councillor Youssef. Comments or questions? Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mitchell. Allow me to get my speech under me first. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the opportunity. I unfortunately will not be supporting this application going forward. Being familiar with how the houses in this neighborhood, the roofs are set at curb level, to see the 3 lots going in and as high as they're going to be, especially not allowing the appropriate setbacks. I don't believe it fits in the character of the neighborhood. Rather than turning it down, I would be open to the possibility of deferring it back to staff to possibly see if the applicant would consider going with a 2-lot subdivision rather than a 3, because believing that 2 would provide enough of the setback for the surrounding houses that it would fit in the neighborhood rather than having the 3 stacked as we've seen through the images that were provided at Committee of the Whole. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, then I will call that question, although you didn't pass a different, you're not asking to.
No, Mr. Chair, I did not formally put a deferral motion on the floor, but I wanted to gauge appetite around the table. Apparently, if there are none, then we'll proceed.
Okay, then all those in favor of this application moving forward, motion is carried 4-1. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, please.
Thank
Madam
you.
Clerk.
The next bylaw is 2021-471-RZ for 22582, 22588, 22596, 22606, and 22610, 121 Street to rezone from RS1 to RM3 to allow future construction of a 5-story apartment building with 87 market strata dwelling units.
Thank you very much.
Sorry,
Can I,
for third reading.
third reading, can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Counselor Youssef, seconded by Counselor Doze. Comments or questions? Being none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Thank you. The next bylaw for consideration is 2023-016RZ at 20000 Stewart Crescent to rezone from M3 to CD223 to facilitate redevelopment of the subject site for the expansion of the E1 Molly Energy Facility. And this bylaw is for consideration of third reading.
Thank you very much. Motion moved by Counselor Doze, seconded by Counselor Youssef. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. The next bylaw is 2024 the 2024 through 2027 permissive tax exemptions to exempt certain types of properties from municipal property taxation for up to 10 years. And this is recommended for adoption.
Can I get a motion to move this item? Moved by Counselor Youssef, seconded by Counselor Tan. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of this item? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on.
The next item is 2018-489-RZ at 20278 and 20292 Patterson Avenue to rezone from RS1 to RM2 to permit the future construction of an 88-unit 4-story apartment building. And this bylaw is before council to consider adoption.
Can I get a motion? Moved by Counselor Youssef, seconded by Counselor Tan. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, please, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. The items in the committee reports and recommendations category are staff reports presented at an earlier committee of the whole meeting, typically a week prior, to provide council with an opportunity to ask staff detailed questions. The items are now before the regular council meeting for debate and vote. The first item is 2023-346RZ, City of Maple Ridge Off-Street Parking and Loading Bylaw number 7970 to require owners and occupiers of any land, building, or structure to provide off-street parking, bicycle, and loading spaces. And this is in front of council for consideration of first reading and for staff to bring forward the necessary bylaw and policy amendments to align with the proposed bylaw.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to move this item? Moved by Counselor Youssef, seconded by anybody. Counselor Doze. Comments, questions on this item? Counselor Duick, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I want to start by saying that this is a good report. I know there was many of us around the table that had comments about specific areas and in particular, the Lougheed corridor and the town center. I wonder if staff could just give a brief overview of what it means to the 20% minimum, because I think there might be the 20% where in the town center and Lougheed corridor, it's 50%. So if you can just clarify that so that people are clear on what we mean when we're talking about a reduction and that sort of thing. So I'll start with that one first, please.
Thank you.
Good evening, through the chair. So in terms of the 20% reduction, it was noted from a previous report in terms of proposed approaches to reducing parking minimums. And the bylaw before you is kind of getting into deeper reductions. So starting at, looking at our general parking minimums outside of transit oriented areas like the town center and the low heat transit corridor. So reducing those minimums for apartments, whether there be market, non-market, or rental, and then looking at deeper reductions into the 30 to 40% for parking minimums that are close to transit. So in the town center, for a non-market rental, essentially going from 1.2 to 0.6, which is greater than 20%. And then the low heat transit corridor area, a slightly less reduction, but still relatively deep for something that is an apartment for a non-market rental. So it's anywhere between 20% and roughly 50% of a reduction for our apartments, whether or not it's close to transit oriented areas, whether or not it's rental, or whether or not it's non-market or market.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. And the reason I was asking that question is because there are certain areas where we know that developers have put up their buildings and their parking spots aren't all being utilized. But then other areas where it's around residential infill and stuff, that would be a challenge if we reduce the parking. So I think it's hard to, do it specific from area to one area, but it's important to recognize that we are car dependent in those areas like Albion or Silver Valley. If we're densifying or putting apartment buildings or multifamily units up there, the parking is going to be different than the parking that would be required in the town center, for example, because without singling one out, but like Brickwater, for example, everybody is within close proximity to find all their services. So it makes sense they're not going to utilize as many parking spaces as if an apartment was further away. So I'm wrestling with, do we get it right? What I mean by right, like, can we reduce some of those minimums before we pass this bylaw, or do we allow the bylaw to go ahead and, like every new bylaw, wait a year, see how it works out? Applicants always have the ability to ask for a variance at any time, site specific. So I kind of want to hear what my other colleagues have to say, because I know we all have a little bit of different opinion on this one. So I'd like to hear what everyone says before I make my final decision on it. But I do see the value of reducing those minimums even more in the town center and the low heat corridor. Don't see it on Dudney Trunk, for example, because Dudney Trunk is basically surrounded by a lot of single families of residential places. So that parking would end up affecting those neighborhoods, where the low heat corridor is a lot different, and town center for sure. So I'll wait to hear what others say before I make my determination. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Dewick, for raising those points and inquiring about our opinions around the table. And if I may, I'll offer mine. I'm of the mindset that this is a good first step. Let's keep our ears to the ground. Let's look at it in a year, as we usually do. And over that year, let's keep close to applicants to see where they are and how this bylaw is affecting them. And if we do see, as you mentioned, that there are certain areas that are being negatively affected, then we always have the ability to do so. And I would be more than willing to do so at that point. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor. Always appreciate the discussion around the table. I'm of a few minds about this. I as like I think everyone else received the whole swamp of letters from the development community, talking to us about how that they are looking to be partners in sort of building this affordable housing that that we all talk about, that seems so hard to attain and achieve. And I'm like Councillor Dewick, I'm looking mostly at my attention is focused on the town center area and the low heat transit corridor area. And as I look specifically at the details, and I see that there are oftentimes the reductions are around the 20% mark. I'm looking at apartment market residential, a reduction from sort of 1.5 to 1.2 non-market, which, a lot of folks ask us for. It's like a reduction of 1.2 to 1.0. apartment rental, which I know the mayor is very interested in. It's a reduction of only about 20% from 1.2 to 1, and non-market rental again 1 to 0.8. So I see it's largely it's a 20% reduction. And so from what I understand from the development community that that builds all this housing that we need, is that they're saying to us that that's not enough. And I just really want to step back here as I sort of considered as I really sort of considered this in holistically, as we sort of understand how all the things affect each other. I think what we hear from our residents, we hear about traffic, and I think largely what we hear about is quality of life. And I think no one really gets up in the day and say the thing I want right more now in my life is more parking. I think largely folks kind of say what the thing I really want is not get stuck in traffic so I can get home to my family and not think too much about this kind of stuff. So for me, I think there are lots of questions there. I think we are doing a few good things on the end to sort of improve. I think there's that necessary building of public confidence. We don't talk enough about the mayor's good work or trying to bring bus rapid transit and significant public transit investment into our area. I don't think we talk enough about the fact that we are providing for a lot more bike parking and putting a significant, I think also a historic amount of investment into active transportation and walking. And, as I sort of look at the TransLink reports, I think there's the one in 2021 where they look at transportation demand measures, where TransLink laid out a whole suite of tools that said, okay, if we want to seriously get folks in suburban areas, which we are, to move away sort of from, clogging up our streets with traffic, we want our fellow neighbors to have that incentive. What can we do? And so TransLink has a whole suite of things there. So I think just stepping back and saying holistically, I think we can, I think we should really take folks' concerns into serious account and say, hey, folks are saying to us that they need us to improve all these things. And I think we're working on those fronts. And I think we need to do seriously more work on that front as well. And also thank you to staff for the work they have done. But, and also looking holistically, I know that what the development community has told us is that I heard today carrying costs have doubled since I think it was 2019. Interest rates, as we all know, has gone up significantly. Construction costs have gone up in some cases double is my understanding. And we are also going to be looking at things like having to put in more step code requirements. It's still up for a discussion at the council table, but those things are coming in. Those will affect the bottom line for developers. Other things are coming in. We have considered the relocation policies that will affect the bottom line of people. So, what Councillor Dozier has said in previous council meetings, and just my interpretation, not Councillor Dozier's, is that we need to be very, thoughtful about how we make Maple Ridge an attractive place for developers to come build, because we don't build housing, developers do. And I think they've told us very, very strongly in pretty large numbers that they need they need this partnership for us in reducing parking minimums. So I'm not exactly sure how to approach this. I think I would be supportive of larger reductions. I would say around the 40 to 60% mark, and I would say strengthening the reductions for rentals just to incentivize those. And I really would encourage us to go back and maybe because I think what we've heard is that the community has told us that this is not quite hitting the mark, and I would like to see us, really be responsive to people's feedback. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Dozier?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. As far as I'm concerned, I'm sure that at this time, most of you guys will have gotten used to my, what do I call it, dictum, if you will say, of the fact that you cannot eat an omelette without breaking an egg. I can't stop saying that because it comes up often, oftentimes when we talk about issues like this. And I hear my colleagues say that some people are complaining. For me, I've heard people complain, and I've heard people say, kudos to you, you guys are making great decisions. What that tells me is that you cannot eat an omelette without breaking an egg somehow. Somebody will complain and somebody will hail it. The most important thing I see in this legislation is that it is a range. It is not one size fits all, between 20 and 50. And I see that because I say this because I know that some people will have told you that, in short, someone told me, as a matter of fact, that we should remove everything entirely, 100%. And then I said, okay, that we will look into that. But for me, Modesty is what is very, very important. And apart from every other thing we have to take into account here, we know that within the next 1 year, we have the opportunity to review whatever decision we make today. And then we can say, you know what? We missed it here. The population is going this direction. This is what our people are saying they need. And this is what the economics of it all is giving us. So what I'm saying is that we have the opportunity to mend our ways if we get it wrong. But for now, I think it is better for us to make those decisions that are in the best interest of the people of Maple Ridge. And for that reason, I'll be voting for this legislation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I hope you don't eat too much eggs. I mean, not good for your health, right? Okay, I'll jump in here and share my insights onto this. I think the notion of reducing parking in the downtown core along the transit corridor is actually makes a lot of sense for multiple reasons. If we get our rapid transit, that's going to make it a lot more easier for people to move around in Maple Ridge. We don't have that answer just yet, but I'm hoping to get an answer soon. But having said that, when I look at and there's still some confusion, I'll echo what my colleague Judy, Councillor Duick has said. I don't know that people really understand the 20%, the 30%, the 50%, and where they apply. So even in response from staff, it was up to, and I'm not really sure where is the certainty of that. And it's a question I want to get staff to answer. Where is the certainty? So if I'm a developer, how do I know what my number is going to be? Where does that come in, and how do we move forward on that?
So it's an interesting question. When we're looking at the reduction, it's really in relation to the bylaw that we have in effect today. So if someone was reviewing the bylaw, like should the bylaw be adopted and they were to flip through the page that looks at apartment buildings, for example, it says, generally speaking, that it will require 1.5 spaces per dwelling units for a market apartment building. If the apartment building happens to be located in the town center area, it says it's 1 space per dwelling unit. And then in the Lougheed Transit Corridor, it says 1.2. So it is very much outlined. We've tied the number of parking stalls to the number of dwelling units. So the number of units within an apartment building. So a developer who's interested in constructing an apartment building will be able to say, we have this much area, we would like to go up this high. Let's just say for argument's sake, they'd like to do a 40-unit building and they're in the town center. They know they have to provide 40 parking stalls plus the visitor parking requirement. So the actual bylaw is very specific. The 20, 30, 40% is relative to what we have today. So those percentages aren't found in the bylaw in those terms.
I don't know that I completely comprehend that, but that's okay. Okay, I'm gonna go to the second round. We don't want to spend too much time on this, but let's go to the second round. Councillor Tan.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm going to be more than happy to accept direction from staff here where, I'm looking at the in the little squiggly numbers of the appendix here, and I'm seeing it says residential apartment market, where the original, some of the actual requirements have gone up because in the previous bylaw, it says here, current bylaw, bachelor 0.9 parking spaces required. Currently, we're under the new bylaw, 1.0 space in the town center plan and Lougheed Transit 1.2. So in terms of the bachelor and 1-bedroom apartment, it has actually gone up. It's staying the same or going up. 2-bedroom it was at 1.1 and now it's at 1.0 or 1.2, depending on Lougheed Transit Corridor or the town center. And 3-bedroom was at 1.2, now it's at 1 for the town center plan and then 1.2 for the Lougheed Transit Corridor area. And I'm getting these numbers just from the chart here from our staff report. And then I can go down the list for apartment non-market and apartment rental. And so what I'm seeing here is I really appreciate the effort of staff to lay this out. And what I'm really seeing here is that it is in some cases 20%. In some cases, depending on the number of bedrooms per unit, it has actually stayed the same or gone up slightly. And for apartment rentals, it's gone down by 20%. And my understanding is that there may be desire for, particularly for the apartment rental and non-market and rental, for that reduction to be higher along the 50 or 60% mark. So from what I'm understanding here, like this current bylaw may not be aligned with where we necessarily want to go. So I will say I'm a little bit uncomfortable with passing it as it is, and particularly with the fairly strong feedback we've received. So I don't, it kind of sounds like that there is, so just to say again that there are specific numbers listed in the charts here, and they're not like up to, there are like specific numbers here. And then what I'm hearing is that it's not maybe meeting the mark that we were necessarily looking for. So I would be interested in considering sort of more around the 40% reduction range. And more for the rentals and non-market rentals that we are really looking to encourage here, just really giving the developers more of an incentive to give us more rental and non-market, particularly non-market housing that folks have been asking us to have. So I don't know, Mayor, and sort of thinking about asking staff to take another look at this before this goes back.
I think if more than enough councils are not clear, then I don't know, like I'm not prepared to move this yet, because I think we can get aggressive, especially along our transit corridor. But to be honest, I'm still not getting this whole concept, because to me, the numbers aren't lining up. And yes, we could move it forward. But if we're not comfortable, then why do that? So I don't know. I'm willing to send it back as well at this point, but we'll see what the rest of council has to say. Councillor Youssef, followed by Councillor Duick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So having heard the discussion around the table, and I understand some of the points and reservations, my concern would be that if we do get a bit more aggressive, that we may see some of what Councillor Duick alluded to earlier, where there are certain neighborhoods and areas in our city that cannot tolerate that huge of a reduction in parking. So again, going back to my comments on first round, that this is a good start. It's a step in the right direction. Let's take the step, see where we land, and continue forward progress from there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Duick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So listening to all the comments, I think, it is a good step. So is there any harm in passing this and then over the year and after hearing back comments, tweaking it as we go along? The other thing is, if we pass this, if an applicant comes to us, they always have the ability to come to us and ask for a reduction on an application. And that would continue, correct? I'm seeing nods from staff. So for example, if we had a large project along the low heat corridor and they say, you know what, if we go by the numbers you're providing in this bylaw, it's going to add this much cost to the project. We know from market analysis that we don't need that many spaces. If we reduce these spaces, would council approve it? We could still do that with this. And then there's other areas where we would say absolutely not. Like I can think of a couple in areas where I would say I wouldn't reduce the parking because the parking is a challenge for the existing neighborhoods. So I'm trying to find that balance, because I'm not sure that we're going to give staff enough information tonight to be able to go back and make a revision. I'm not hearing anything where we're all united. So what's the message we're going to ask staff to go back? So do we give it first reading, go out for public consultation, give staff the opportunity to hear the feedback? They did say they'd go through UDI, Haven, do a public process, and then is that fair? And then we still have the opportunity to tweak it if once we hear from formal correspondence and formal feedback through staff. I think that's where I'm leaning. Give it first reading, let staff go to the public consultation, and let staff bring back a report based on the interactions with the various groups and the members of public at large. I think that's where I'd want to go, because then that gives us an opportunity to really think about what is it that we want them to change. Because I'm not hearing, there's not consensus around the table what we're directing them to do. So that's my only concern.
Yeah, I think the consensus you're hearing is, I think we all agree there's room to play here.
Right.
The question is how far, where, and what they are. So
And we all agree that this is good.
yes, I
We
think
can
we're all on
improve
that.
it. So
We're
we
on
all
the same
agree this
page
is
with that.
good. We can improve it, but what does the improve it mean? And I would really like to have a formal report from staff to guide us.
Okay. Any other further comments? Councillor Chan.
Thanks, Mayor. And just a very small addition to Councillor Durek's point, I think a formal public consultation is good. And I think that, I think it sounds like there's clarity around the council table. It's not that all of us are perfectly comfortable with these numbers as accurate as a final draft, but really we're looking for just additional consultation through formal channels. I look forward to hearing what UDI and Haven have to say, and I just want to make a small point that let's also involve the other folks that we had invited to the housing summit, all the nonprofit organizations, CHFBC, the good folks at Aboriginal Housing Management Association, and maybe give the community another chance to weigh in here. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Seeing no further comments, I will call the question. All those in favor of this item? And it is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Looking forward to the next step of this for more clarity. Thank you. Moving on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next item is 2020-129-RZ at 13287 232 Street to rezone from RS3 to RS1 to permit a future subdivision of 2 lots. The bylaw is in front of council to consider first and second reading of the official community plan bylaw, as well as forwarding it to public hearing, and to give second reading and forward to public hearing the zone amending bylaw. And there are a number of conditions that council is also considering, which are outlined in the report.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Doze. Comments, questions? Councillor Doze, Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff, is this property technically in the floodplain?
Yes, it is in a floodplain.
And when we are allowing for subdivisions in the floodplain, do we have stipulations to ensure that not only the construction, but the materials used are conducive to being in the floodplain, as well as the layout of the house, meaning the crawl space or lack thereof, if allowed?
We have a geotechnical report done that establishes the flood construction level, and that will establish the level of the habitable space, and that can be either raised through filling of the land or more often just a higher crawl space. But we don't have specifics on the materials that would be used. And that would apply for a number of floodplains throughout the city, including Hammond.
Thank you for those clarifications. Those are my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other further comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And it is unanimous. Motion had been carried. Grudgingly unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving to the next item, please.
Thank you, Worship. It is item 2021-402-RZ at 20535 123 Avenue to rezone from RS1 to R1 to permit future subdivision of 2 lots. This item is before council to consider second reading and being forwarded to a public hearing along with the various requirements outlined in the report.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Duick, seconded by Councillor Tan. Comments or questions on this item? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And it is unanimous. Motion has been carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is 2021-579-RZ at 23682 Dewdney Trunk Road to rezone from M1 to RM1 to permit future subdivision of approximately 2 single-family lots fronting Dudney Trunk Road and construction of approximately 16 townhouse units on a third lot to the south. The zone amending bylaw is in front of council to be given second reading and forwarded to public hearing, in addition to the various requirements outlined in the report.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Doze. Comments or questions? Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, I will not be supporting this application either. In my opinion, this is one of the worst things that we can do right now. With 93% dependency on residential taxes, 2/3 of our residents leaving every day to go to work. I think the city and the region have expressed a very high demand for local jobs and for industrial lands more specifically. Lastly, Mr. Chair, I fear that if this application proceeds and is successful, that the neighboring property will follow suit and the loss to our community will be compounded for not just this industrial property, but the one next door. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Okay, a motion is carried 4-1. Thank you. Moving on to the next item, please. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next item is 2022-250-RZ at 22534, 22548, and 22556 Royal Crescent to rezone from RS1 to RM2. The official community plan amending bylaw is in front of council to consider first and second reading and being forwarded to public hearing, as is the zone amending bylaw to be given second reading and forwarded to public hearing along with the various requirements outlined in the report.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to move this item, please? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Tan. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I will call the question on this item. All those in favor? And it is unanimous. Thank you very much. We're going to move to the next item, please, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. The next item is 10.6, item 2018-489 for DP/DVP at 20278 and 20292 Patterson Avenue for a development permit and development variance permit for the construction of an 88-unit, 4-story apartment building and associated variance.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Dewick, seconded by Councillor Doze. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And it is unanimously carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to the next item, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. The next item, 10.7, is for consideration of first, second, and third reading of the consolidated fees and charges amending bylaw for recreation service fees, which is a summary of the annual review and adjustment for recreation service fees.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion for this item? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by, I see cards up and down, up and down. Seconded by Councillor Doze. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Unanimously. Let's move on to the next item, please, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. The last item is 10.8, intermunicipal business license bylaw number 7915-2023 and intermunicipal business license agreement bylaw number 7971-2023 to repeal and replace the intermunicipal business license scheme to remove the City of Merritt as a participating municipality. And that is to repeal the bylaw in its entirety, as well as give first, second, and third reading to the intermunicipal business license agreement bylaw 7971 and the intermunicipal business license scheme bylaw number 7915.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion for this item, please? Moved by Councillor Youssef, seconded by Councillor Doze. Comments, questions? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And it is unanimously carried. Excellent. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, what's next on our agenda?
There are no additional items on the agenda.
Public question period.
Oh, I'm sorry. Still a new one for me. My apologies. So the next item on tonight's agenda is item 13, public question period. Participants in public question period are reminded that there should be no discussion of public hearing bylaws which have not yet reached conclusion. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak to council. A second opportunity may be provided once all speakers in the queue have had an opportunity to speak. The total time allotted for public question period is 15 minutes. If you wish to inquire about additional opportunities to address council, please contact the corporate officer. For members of the public in attendance in council chambers wanting to participate in public question period, please come forward to the microphone. Please state your name and city of residence for the record before beginning and address your comments to the mayor. For members of the public participating electronically, please register as a speaker by raising your hand, turn on your camera, and clearly state your name and city of residence for the record before you begin and address your comments or questions to the mayor.
Thank you very much. So is there anybody in chambers or online who would like to step up and speak to council? Not seeing anybody in chambers. Oh, come on up. State your name and city of residence, please.
Thank you. My name is Linda Maroney and I live in Maple Ridge since 1970. Good evening, Mayor and Council. A lot of you are new faces for me since I last stood here. I last stood here with a chamber that was packed with residents from Patterson Avenue in Maple Ridge. And this is my last kick at the can. I'm also going to be reading a few lines from an email that was sent by one of the also longtime residents of Patterson Ave. I have permission to do that from him. His name is Les Jourdain. Since November of 2018, we heard about plans for 2 lots on the southeast corner of Patterson. And at every opportunity, staff and council has heard that our neighborhood has serious concerns about this 4-story apartment building proposal. This evening, the developer has asked to reduce the setbacks for an apartment building that was loudly opposed by the residents of Patterson. There is currently a house listed for sale on Patterson, and it is described at the beginning of the ad as a house on a peaceful, quiet cul-de-sac. Patterson Ave is a cul-de-sac. It is one entrance in, one entrance out, no sidewalks, no street lights, one road with no divider line in between. And now the developer, after going through a number of changes, the proposal at first was for 80 apartments on 2 lots. Now it's for 88. And now the developer wants the setbacks to be reduced to what in our policy here in Maple Ridge allows for. He wants to have 13, let me just find it here. In fact, there were only 5 residents on Patterson because we are the adjacent properties. Now only 5 residents received the letter from the corporate, forget her name. Anyways, so a lot of residents didn't even know about this meeting tonight. They didn't know about what was being proposed and what's being asked for. They want to bring the apartment building out even closer to the road of Patterson. There, as I said, there are no sidewalks on Patterson. That street was built in 1970, and my parents have lived in that house since 1970. They are the original owners, right across from the proposed apartment building.
I'm sorry. I
Yes.
hate to cut you off. It's two minutes.
Is it 2 minutes already?
Oh, it's actually 3 minutes.
It's 3 minutes.
It's 3
I'm a
minutes.
teacher, I guess I just.
However,
Mhm.
if you take your seats,
Okay.
we'll go see if there's anybody else that wishes to speak. And if not, you can have a chance to come back again for
Okay.
another 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Sorry.
Thank you very
Mhm.
much. Okay. Anybody else in chambers or online that wishes to speak? Seeing none, then we'll go to a second round. Come back up. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, I guess I'll speak a little quicker. I have 2 minutes again.
2 minutes.
All right. I'll just stand up here right now and just say we continue to express our major opposition now to the development variance permit application for this property. There's already very poor visibility when accessing 203rd Street from Patterson Ave. It's one way up, one way down, in and out, as mentioned, no sidewalks. It slopes upwards. Safety is going to be a major, major concern for all the residents with the development application asking for the variance setbacks to be changed. There's going to be way too much traffic to access a single entrance exit to Patterson. With the recent construction of water mains along 203rd since May of 23 and still ongoing, there have been numerous congestion delays heading south and north on 203rd. And safety for the residents. If this building is allowed to be, the setbacks to be changed, and they want it to be 2.75 meters to the roof overhang, and we will not be able to see, we cannot get out onto 203rd Street. There's a fire department, fire hall right less than a block away. I've almost been hit by cars coming in, and I can't see even when leaving Patterson Avenue. I don't know if any of you have taken the time to go and see where Patterson Ave is, what it looks like, and what it would be like with an apartment building with 88 units in it. And now they want to make it closer to Patterson and closer to 203rd. We respectfully request that you do not approve this DVP. The developer has already made their proposal. The residents around the area opposed. And if you could have a look to see what it would look like to have it that close to Patterson Ave and 203rd, it would be a huge mistake. And we really ask you to consider the residents. It's not our policy. This is our reality. And we really respect your efforts to help us out by not approving the DVP that they want to make it so close to Patterson Ave for our safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. And anybody else in chambers or online who wish to speak? Seeing none, I think that will bring us to the conclusion of question period.
That's correct.
Okay, then next on. Yes, I knew that. I knew that. Moving on to the next item, mayor and council reports. Thank you, Mr. CAO. Okay, I'll put it up there. Comments, questions, reports. Councillor Youssef.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually wanted to go last because I've got a whole list of things to go through, starting with the Economic Development Summit. That was a resounding success. So kudos to staff for putting that together. The Economic Development Department, working with the Chamber and the Downtown BIA and other stakeholders, has done a phenomenal job putting that on October 11th. As well as, of course, on the very same day in the evening was the Hometown Heroes Banquet, and it was truly refreshing to see that Maple Ridge continues to produce top-notch athletes and top-notch human beings. The young lady that was being recognized was an absolute ray of sunshine. I'm really a big fan of hers now. October 13th was the Fraser River Indigenous Society Open House, where yourself, your worship, as well as other members of council have visited, and it was a very good visit for myself, as the facility is new to me, and to see the work that they do there and the different services that are provided to the community across the board is amazing. And I encourage them to keep up the good work and continue to do so. Saturday, October 15th was the Ridge Meadows Hospital Foundation fundraising gala, annual event that is truly a great event to attend and has an even greater cause behind it. I was fortunate enough to have been there for the first portion of it. Unfortunately, I had to leave for a family commitment later on that evening. Celebrating women in business on Thursday was again another just resounding success. Wonderful to see these types of events coming to Maple Ridge, and looking forward to more and more of these events where we highlight our community and we highlight the successes within our community, especially and specifically in this case, focusing on women in business. The Hospice Society Oktoberfest landed on the same evening as Celebrate the Night. So there's a little bit of arm wrestling between the two events. Luckily, both were very well attended, and both did the Hospice Society Oktoberfest did raise the funds that they needed. And the Celebrate the Night, of course, as I was quoted saying in a newspaper earlier today, staff, volunteers, and stakeholders from all around did a brilliant job. The community came out, over 3,000 attendance apparently. That's remarkable. And for myself, even though I did grow up in the States and spent time in the Midwest and down South, I've never actually seen a Dixie band myself until this weekend in Maple Ridge. So thank you. I'll cross that off my bucket list. The Ridge Meadows Cricket Association Gala was on Saturday, along with the Golden Ears Métis Society Harvest Dinner and Dance, of course. So two events again on the same evening competing, and luckily both yourself and I, your worship, were able to attend both. The Harvest Dinner and Dance was wonderful. It was one big family. It was a really good feel in the room. I didn't want to leave, but we had other commitments to get to. The Cricket Association did a wonderful job of decorating the hall. I've never seen that hall decorated in the same fashion. The award ceremony where your worship participated was really good, recognizing the athletes that are coming from this league and the excellent levels of competition that they are putting on. Lastly, yesterday was the Tsuyuki Park opening, where the majority of us were there, I believe, except for Councillor Dozie. And to learn about the history and the heritage of that family and of the Japanese population that was here. And I shuddered earlier when I heard a comment about they disappeared in 1942. It wasn't a disappearance. It was an internment. And I'll leave the painful memories aside. It was a great event to celebrate the family, celebrate the history, and a really wonderful family coming together from all over the place, all the way up to Salmon Arm, just to celebrate this park in Maple Ridge. So again, thank you to staff for doing a ton of work over the last 2 weeks and really showcasing Maple Ridge as one of the greatest cities in the Lower Mainland. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you for speaking for all of us, because I think we all attended many of those events. Moving on, anybody else? Well, I can't let it just get away. Echoing Councillor Youssef, it was a busy couple of weeks, lots of events to go to, needless to say. I won't repeat them. However, what I will say is the spirit of volunteerism in Maple Ridge is at a peak. I've said it before, we have the best volunteers throughout this country. One by one, they all volunteer to get involved and to make a difference in our community. The highlight for me was Celebrate the Night. I don't think I've ever seen so many people in the park, Memorial Park. I've never seen it wall to wall people. And you're so close to everybody that you're hearing people's comments to each other. And all I heard were positive on top of positive on top of positive. And that tells me that we are doing something right. And on behalf of council and to the CAO and to the staff, kudos for an amazing job that was done. Everybody had fun and it was safe, it was peaceful. The fire department was there. The fireworks were fantastic. And it was just the right amount of stuff. And watching the kids in their costumes, had I known, I would have worn my Star Trek costume, but that's just me. I'm just a geek. So aside from that, look, it's been a busy time. There's lots going on, lots of announcement happening, and looking forward to the next month for more announcements to come. So again, from all of us to staff, please tell your folks the great job that they did for that event. So kudos to that. As I said, I won't repeat everything else that was said, but I know that we all had fun being at all these events, and so it was exciting. Seeing as how there's no other further business, seeing none, 1, 2, 3, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.